Hello, everybody, and welcome to the grand finale of Battle of the Bangers Season 2. I'm your host. My name is Tyler, and I am once again joined by the boys. We have no hat Brennan.
I do not have a hat.
And we have Hat Kyle.
Hello, I'm Hat Kyle. Milady.
All right.
I'm sure I did that last time, too.
What the fuck?
Really don't know if you did, but you did it now, so...
Either way, it exists.
Thanks
I
for
wore
that.
the top hat because it's the grand finals!
It is the grand
Slipping a
finals.
sloppy
I would
dressed
imagine
up.
that anybody watching this has tuned into the entire series, but just in case you haven't, let's load up the bracket full of dead bodies. We started out with the top 8 most streamed Swancore bands, aside from DGD, because this wouldn't be fair, and we are left with 2 bands. We have Royal Coda versus Eidola. The 2 bands that probably all thought were going to make it here. Now they're here. This is going to be an interesting match. I actually don't really know where we're going to go with this one. So, I don't know. We're going to rip into it. And then at the end, one band will be dead and one band will be the greatest Swancore band of all time that's not Dance Gavin Dance. Wow.
Damn.
All right, boys. Let's jump right into it, man. Where do we want to start? Do we want to start with Eidola? Do we want to start with Royal Coda? They're 2 very different bands. Royal Coda is
actually.
like kind of like Dance Gavin Dance if they never changed past the Kurt Travis era, I should say.
Yes.
Eidola is Philosophy Core. I'm going to speak that into existence. I'm just going to keep saying that until it becomes a thing. That is a legitimate genre that does not have a name. There's more bands. That'll be season 3. We're just going to do Philosophy Core bands.
Hell yeah. I tell you what, I think Eidola has a strong run in it. But we'll see.
But
what
do they have a
happens.
strong run today, Kyle?
Dude, I don't know. I actually don't know, like legitimately. Because I guess if you don't mind me just hopping right in.
Do it.
Because I feel like both of these bands do good things in their own right, and I don't know which one I give a stronger testament into Swancore for. I'm leaning away, but I mean, like with Eidola, they do like this really strong Swancore stuff and then add the Philosophy Core stuff into it, and they kind of like wrap back around into it by doing these like big sweeping ideas, these really cool fucking riff things that are just very, very thought-provoking, as you would with Philosophy Core. And at the other end of it, they got Royal Coda, that I guess you could kind of say are a little bit more on the mark of Swancore, but then again, I also feel like they're in a different way also quite thought-provoking in some of the stuff that they're doing. They do some shit that is very, like, in a roundabout way gets you to the end, but it's all kind of just, like, it's all locked in. I mean, like, anytime Will Swan writes anything, it's fucking tasty and delicious. But like it's always like going on these little journeys that all collect together, all are like kind of beautiful and harmonious that like land in one spot. So I feel like in a way they are kind of similar, but they're doing it in very different styles. So I'm not sure which really takes the edge for me.
Yeah, I don't know. Also, Royal Coda does not have uncleans, I don't think.
That is true.
No.
That's a good point.
So I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but that is a thing.
Mark it up on the board. That's a difference, baby. Woo! Yeah, Brennan, what are you thinking about this one?
This one's tough. Because before we were talking about Eidola kind of going on a journey, you know, kind of like starting off so-so, but then, you know, making their way up to The Architect, which, you know, is one of the better albums of 2021. I think hands down, really. Royal Coda definitely is more intricate and definitely more, like, they have a lot more going on, it seems like, for me. Because you have all these, like, different tracks, like, kind of doing their own thing, you know, Kurt Travis included, and how, like, they're able to make it all work and come together and form, like, this package, you know, really, I think is impressive for Royal Coda. While Eidola with, you know, their albums, I mean, obviously going from not so great to okay to solid to epic, I feel like that's a really good progression for a band, and I feel like a lot of the tracks that are on The Architect like are really like slappers, while Royal Coda, I mean, yes, they have some records, but like a lot of singles within those records, I feel like they're probably better than Eidola songs like One on One. Even though some of Idola's bops are fucking bops. So I mean, it's really close. Both these bands, I think, are really, really close to one another.
Yeah.
Per se.
I would say that I think. Well, I was gonna say I think one kind of fits the Swancore mold like a little closer than the other, but now I don't even think that's true because I think they both sort of encapsulate different sides of the genre. You know,
Yeah.
I think because with Royal Coda, you get more like the groovy vibes and like the real feel good aspect, I guess, of like Swancore, whereas Eidola, you get more of like the, you know, they have like the uncleans and they have like the heavier aspect of it, I guess. And they both have probably an equal amount of complexity just in those two different areas. So it really is sort of just like if you took Swancore and you like just divided it into like the two like core parts, like this is kind of what's left.
Our yin and yang of
yeah.
Swancore.
Which obviously, you know, Eidola still has like clean vocals and Andrew Wells has a beautiful voice and stuff, but like I think like in a general sense, if we're gonna break it down to like fundamental stuff, I would say one sort of leans more toward the sort of clean, poppy, groovy side of the genre, and the other one leans more toward the post-hardcore origins of the genre.
Which of those is more important?
I don't think it's about which one's more important. I think it's about which one sounds better.
I guess that's fair. And I honestly...
Yeah.
Let's phrase it this way. Which one sounds better more consistently? And I would say that case would probably be Royal Coda. But...
Probably.
I don't know. That's not like an end-all, be-all argument.
Yeah.
But I think, from my perspective... especially with some of the stuff I said in the last episode about like some of the issues I've had with Eidola, I think that Royal Coda is much more consistent in their sound and their quality than Eidola has been. Granted, that didn't hold a lot of weight in the last one, but I would like to bring that up here.
No, yeah, and actually, I was actually considering bringing that up too, because I actually think their like trajectory over time is actually semi-similar in a way. I think one less so than the other, but like the fact that Royal Coda's first album is very like, it's okay, like it's a good album. Second album is really good, and then like this most recent single, even though they released, is a fucking bop. And obviously that timeline is much more condensed, but it still goes from like all right to yes to ooh. Whereas like even with Eidola, it's a longer period of time, and they went from to okay to this is a full album, so this is a full album with fucking bangers, you know? So I actually feel like that general argument, while it's possible, like, because it's a longer period of time, I feel like maybe you could argue it's worth that's worse for Eidola, but I think it's kind of similar in some ways, which makes this a very interesting matchup, actually. I
feel like they're so like evenly balanced and like
they really
offset
are
in like perfect ways. It really is like hard to come up with anything.
I feel like if we're gonna go Royal Coda versus Wolf and Bear, like Royal Coda just feels more established, while like Wolf and Bear just kind of sounds like a younger band, and I think that's where like Royal Coda stacks up better to Eidola in my opinion. Because I imagine like like I said this in the last episode, you know, if we film this like 2 years down the line, I feel like the balance of power might shift a little bit, because like a lot of these bands will become more like established and more like fleshed out and more like have
Anvar.
Yeah, and unless you're Anvar, but like and actually have like a concrete discography, not just a massive collection of singles. Because like Royal Coda, like because they have like 2 albums, like they have the self-titled and Compassion, which only came out a fucking year apart. That's impressive, but even that, like with their singles mixed in, I feel like they're a much more cohesive unit. And while like Eidola, they kind of stumbled a little bit and like eventually found their footing with The Architect. Royal Coda, they already have like a couple albums that I feel like are pretty good, plus singles to boot. So I don't know. This one's tight. This is really tight.
This one is really.
I think one of my biggest takeaways from this whole thing, though, is that I've been sleeping on Royal Coda so fucking hard. Like,
yeah,
I remember checking out their first album when that dropped, and I was just like, it's all right. And that's kind of what I had already thought, like, my opinion of them was.
Same.
So I kind of never really like gave Compassion like a decent go. And Compassion fucking slaps, even if fucking slaps. Ever since they got this really colorful art style in all of their art and shit, it's been fucking incredible. I love it. So yeah, I don't know. At the end of the day, like, no matter who wins this, I'm very glad I've come around to Royal Coda and Dwellings for that matter. I know they're like long gone at this point, but they're kind of in the same boat as well. Man, I honestly like this is like
really tough.
What's crazy though?
Oh no, go ahead, Kyle.
I was gonna say that because the other toughest one for me so far has been Wolf and Bear versus Coletta, and it's in that one it was because they were so different. The thing here is they're both so damn in the Swancore lane that it's less about which I kind of personally prefer, which is what came down in Wolf and Bear and Coletta, and the things I really enjoyed about individual things. Now it's just legitimately they're both really good. They both definitely have had their weak moments, and it's very balanced back and forth, this duel. So I actually
Okay, let's try to put this in a different light. This will probably not progress anything either. But so if we erase history and flaws of the past and whatever, we've kind of done this for other matchups previously. Current state of the band, right? Who peaks harder? Can we determine who peaks harder? If we take the Architect and we take whatever the fuck the Royal Coda album is that I keep forgetting.
Compassion.
Yeah. Which of those albums, if we're just comparing those, what is a more consistently good thing, do we think? I guess now that I say that, I think when I keep kind of throwing out the consistency thing and then sort of realizing that I think the answer is Royal Coda. Because I think that Eidola might have higher highs in the Architect, might have slightly more complex stuff in certain areas in a different way, obviously. But I do think that there are some songs on that Eidola album that are filler tracks, and there are some parts that I kind of skip sometimes. I think that Royal Coda just has it has its sound and it's consistent throughout. But I don't know if that makes it better or worse. If one thing is very consistent and one thing has kind of slightly higher highs and very slightly lower dips.
Well, I mean, the Royal Coda album is only 8 songs long. The Architect's 12.
That's a decent point. But then on that same breath, do you give it credit for cutting out songs that might be more considered filler tracks, or do you say they should have had more tracks on the album? Which one do you give it more credit for? Because some people would say Eidola has the upper hand in that because they did put out more music. And me personally, I actually don't think many of them. I don't consider anything on that album really filler for me. I think especially
not even legitimate filler tracks.
There's intermissions, but
a
lot of good albums have those though.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying that it's a horrible thing. I'm just saying that does exist in that.
Yeah, but
it doesn't have that.
I guess, I said before, when I listen to Eidola and a lot of Eidola's albums now, and by a lot I mean this one, the last one, because that's half of it. I really appreciate the art of top to bottom album making, and when I think of a filler track, I think more of a song that's a full length song that feels like a filler song. not like a minute long interlude thing. That's obviously there for like the album experience. To me, I guess I could see where you're coming from, where you consider that a filler song. To me, that's more like an album experience thing. It's not even really like a full song to me. So yeah, I don't really consider there to be like any like filler songs in my sense in that album. Now, granted, to kind of go back to the question you posed, Tyler, like present day, like Boom to Boom, Compassion versus Architect, I kind of want to have more time with Compassion. I know it's been out for a while, but the fact that I've never really given it a full chance makes me feel like it's kind of rough for me to make that comparison, just because I'd love to just sit down and fucking blast it top to bottom more than once, you know, like, because that's all fair. I've ever really done with it. Whereas Architect, I've listened to top to bottom many, 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 many times at this point. But my gut feeling is that it actually is pretty close. I would agree with you that like there are like probably higher highs on the Architect, but maybe also, like you said, objectively lower lows. So, like you said, which one do you compare? Do you see being more important, that consistency, or being able to hit the higher highs?
I think it really is gonna. I hate to say this, but I think it really is gonna come down to like personal taste a little bit, because I think that like
I think so.
For every, like, they counterbalance each other so perfectly. Like anytime we kind of think of one area that like this might like give it the edge, it's kind of like offset by a different thing from the other band. Like this is as even of a matchup as we could possibly have. So I think it might just sort of come down to personal preference. I don't know if there's like a dead set 100% like factual answer we can come up with here.
Yeah, there's no safe pick and like not safe pick. I will say though, because like now that because I've been kind of feeling that for a second now, and I didn't want it to be that way, but I think that is in my head. I'm trying to think which one holds the title for best Swancore band, not best band,
right?
Necessarily, because that's sometimes what I find myself slipping into.
And that's the thing.
What's the best like, Swancore band?
Yeah, and that's the thing that kind of like brings me back to the point we kind of brought up earlier, where we were like, they both encapsulate different parts of Swancore. Like I don't think either of them is purely Swancore.
Yeah.
They both just encapsulate different areas of it. Like
for sure.
You could argue that like Eidola fits it better because they have more post-hardcore vibes, but also like you could also argue that like Royal Coda sounds more like the experimental side of it because they have a lot of that complexity and like the sex jammy stuff, you know? So it's just, I don't know.
I tell you what, I think I'm feeling a certain way.
Are you?
And yeah, I think I am when I think about it. And I don't know if you guys, I mean, if you guys are down to talk about it a little bit more, I'm down, but because it is the grand finals, so we got to deliberate hardcore here. But if you guys are down, I think I'm ready to vote.
Go for it.
So at the end of the day, when I'm looking at the two of them, and like you said, it kind of has to be a little bit subjective, just because they really are like fully balanced. When I look at Swancore and what I think is like personally like the thing that like culminates all of Swancore the best, which part of the Swancore do I think is more integral, I guess, to Swancore? I think I have to go with what Royal Coda brings to the table. I think that everything that they are bringing out with like the complexity in this groovy bits, I know that they don't have the post-hardcore stuff like Eidola does, but I do think that at the end of the day, the fact that there is like a rock bass and then there's groovy stuff over top with like the complex vocals on top of it. I mean, maybe even if it is just because like Will Swan's a part of it.
I was gonna say,
but like that's kind of it. Like if I'm being honest with you, like the more I'm thinking about it, because initially when I made that pick, I didn't realize it until just now. But like there is a lot of just like that, so much thought going into all these different parts that are like coming together, creating this really awesome harmonious piece. I do think that I could see either side of it really easily. Like I could tomorrow, if I listen to both these bands a ton, you brought back, maybe I'd go the other way. But like in the moment when I'm telling you like what I think brings together the best Swancore band, I think I'd have to lean towards Royal Coda.
Okay.
So that's where I'm putting my vote.
Brennan, where are you at?
If you, I mean, talking about things that kind of, counterbalance each other. If you ask who's hotter right now, it's Eidola. But completely subjectively, if you're talking about who writes better music, then the answer is Royal Coda.
Ooh.
Damn,
that's kind of hot.
Because I think Royal Coda, they just like their ability to like mesh just a bunch of different things together. I mean, and obviously, it kind of is DGD if Kurt Travis is still a thing, but then it's like kind of not, because like the music's like way better than Death Star and Happiness ever could even think of reaching back in the day.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe like bringing Sergio Medina to help with that really helps. But
or
it's
just not having uncleans in it. Maybe that.
I mean,
makes
maybe
it better too. I mean,
but then who knows? If you bring in like today's John Mess, maybe this is kind of what you end up with. But
that's a good point.
Yeah. Today's John Mess. I mean, it could be. But I mean, it's just like listening to a Royal Coda song from start to finish and listening to an Eidola song start to finish. I mean, I know this is totally subjective, but like usually Royal Coda just like brings a lot more to the table. Like they just have a lot more going on, and I feel like that's like the DGD way. Especially like with like their later albums. But like, and that's no shame to Eidola. I mean, Eidola has, in my opinion, like the better album with The Architect compared to everything that Royal Coda's come out with. This is tough. To spice it up, I'm gonna go with Eidola.
Oh shit! I thought I was gonna get out of this without a vote.
I was
just
like,
a
wow,
fucking Tyler.
Oh god!
I was like, wow, Tyler's gonna get out of this free, and then just
I felt so good. My ass felt so loose. I was like, we're done.
I'm presenting the arguments in my head, and I'm making you the bad guy. So either that or I'll be the bad guy. I don't know.
That's so evil.
You know what though? I think I have the answer though. I think I have the answer. I think it's the answer that you just randomly decided not to commit to, and it's Royal Coda.
Yeah. I was like, if you just throw Eidola in and we just have like this long conversation about Royal Coda, and then all of a sudden it's like Eidola.
Just kidding. It's I mean, it's Royal Coda. I mean,
honestly, I couldn't be mad either way. Like I said, I think Royal Coda writes better stuff, but I think Eidola is just the hotter band right now. Yeah. So
I said, I think they are both like really, really, really good at the two very different takes on Swancore they have.
Right.
And Royal Coda has Will Swan. I mean, there's no way they could fail. Will Swan was in like 3 of these bands. I mean, we should have figured he was going to win in some facet.
Sergio Medina's in both of these, right? Isn't that right?
Yep.
Because if I'm being honest with you,
he's the real winner.
He's the winner. He was in both.
Yeah.
But no, at this point, honestly, there were moments in this where like, but like this guy is in this band and this band, but also this other guy is in that one, but also this one. And by this point, I was like, I don't fucking know who's in any band anymore.
It's like Marvel Comics. It's like each hero's in like 4 different teams, and you just have to fucking keep track of it. It's like, yeah.
But yeah,
Swancore's wild.
Swancore's crazy.
Fucking nuts. I love it.
And here we are. We have done it. We finished it. Royal Coda has survived and murdered everyone else, and Royal Coda, the number 4 seed, has taken the title of the best Swancore band of the 8 bands we had to choose from that were not Dance Gavin Dance. Congratulations to Royal Coda. Round of applause.
Will a number 1 seed ever actually win? We'll find out.
Probably never.
The number 1 seed should have won in season 1. I'm just saying. I mean,
no.
That one still hasn't been uploaded as of the time of us recording this, so I don't know.
I can't wait to see the reactions.
People are probably very happy about it. A lot of people hate how popular.
It's fair.
But that's
That's not Swancore minus DGD. That's DGD.
Yeah.
That's not now.
Yeah,
This is
it's
now.
DGD.
Bro, Coda's now,
And right
baby.
now, you should subscribe to the Talks a Lot Boys if you haven't subscribed to us. Because, like, if you haven't at this point, why?
Why?
Just do it.
You have dumpster.
And while
brain
you're
if you
down there,
haven't.
ring a ding 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 dong 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 the bell,
Nice.
and then you'll get notified when season 3 comes out. What's season 3 gonna be? Fuck if we know. If you have ideas, you can comment below and let us know if you have any amazing ideas for what another season of this show is gonna be. We've had a couple good suggestions.
We have.
At least one good suggestion in the comments. We might have a few more by now. I don't know, but so we got some stuff cooking. But yeah. Also, let us know if you agree with the outcome of this bracket. It was a very heated debate for this final, so could have swung either way. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are you pissed? Let us know in the comments below. We'll probably definitely read it and probably definitely agree or disagree with you based on what you say.
That is how conversation goes.
That
Hello,
is
we
how
are
it
human.
More human than you, man.
Well,
Wow.
that brings us to the end of another fantastic season of Battle of the Bangers. We have been the Talks a Lot Boys. We will talk a whole lot more next time. Bye-bye!